Namaste, and today is like Neelam's show, season 2, episode 5. And hope you guys are enjoying. And we are meeting so many good people. And thank you so much for your lots of likes and lots of comments and so many calls. I'm feeling so good. I know you people are thinking why I'm wearing sari when it's about jungle room. Oh, Santoshini is telling like in jungle, why are you wearing sari? And I can hear that. But I'm wearing sari because Indian jungles are really famous for this wildlife photography thing. I just went on Google and I checked. So they are telling like so many people from out of world, they are coming and spending their like very beautiful moments and catching up very informative things in Indian jungle. So because it's about Indian jungle, I'm like wearing this. I'm in Indian attire, and today with us very famous personality is available. His name is Mr. Varun Azhagar Surendran, and I would like to invite Mr. Varun Azhagar Surendran. Varun Azhagar Surendran is wildlife cameraman based out of Coimbatore. His credit as a principal cinematographer are on BBC, National Geographic, Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, and many more. An animal behavior specialist at very young age. Animal behavior specialist. He has turned his career to emphasize audience with visual that spreads love to natural world. His recent work for BBC's latest series, Primates, featuring sequence of interaction between lion-tailed macaws and Indian giant squirrel, has received wild acclamation and appreciation. And that video is too good. I'll share that video on my FB page. Just have a look. Okay, so welcome to Neelam Show.
Thank you very much, Neelam. That was quite an introduction. But then, hello everybody. Good afternoon, and thank you for logging on, for watching us for this video. And thanks, Neelam. You've been doing an amazing job. And thanks for this time that you have.
Thank you. So here we are going to ask so many questions to you, me, and after me, guys, you will also get chance to ask many questions to him live. Okay. As we all know, this wildlife photography thing is like very interesting, but we all are having like very few knowledge about it. We are not so good, we are not aware of it. So we'll start with like, how did you get into this profession? Like,
Okay, to begin with, when I was really young, it was a family thing that we used to go into wild places, exploring nature and going into sanctuaries and all that. Every time, it was a lifestyle basically, going into the wild and spending our time over there. So we grew up with the wild. That was one of the basic things why I was always interested with wildlife. And then later on I picked up photography as well. When I was 11 years old, I started photography, but then it wasn't a great thing. It was just about hobby. Photographing just about anything, just ants, any small thing that was moving around, not just animals, even just people. It was going on like that. And then when I tried to include both together, like wildlife as well as people, as in photography together, so that's when I started wildlife photography as a serious thing. And then later I realized I could turn this into my profession when I was doing my engineering graduation.
engineering in?
I did my engineering in production, which is like mechanical engineering.
And
So,
that is
while-
like completely
Yeah, completely.
opposite.
So while I was doing it, I decided, okay, fine, I have to pick this as my profession because I was in awe with it. And I started practicing towards that, and later I quickly applied to a university in New Zealand for wildlife filmmaking course. I did my master's in that, and then I started my career from then on. So that's how I started.
Then how your parents like approach towards it? Like they were okay, or as per all parents, like no, this is not convenient thing
Profession.
to make profession, and how their approach was?
Basically, when I started it out, when I wanted it at least, so I was very confident that this was my profession. I was very sure that this is going to be my profession. I was convinced this is what this is what I was going to do. So immediately I told my parents, so this is what I'm going to do. So what shall I do? They were like, first finish your graduation and then we'll think about it. I was like, okay, fine. But they were not thinking that I was going to be serious very soon. And 2 years after I graduated, and I still said the same thing. They were like, immediately, they were like, yeah, completely, we agree with you. And if you really want to do that as your profession, go ahead, we'll support you as much as we can. But only to a certain extent we can support. But after that, will you be able to support yourself? I said, don't worry about that. I'll be able to come over and do it myself.
So they were like real support. It was not
Yeah,
so much contradiction.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
They've completely supported it, because without parent support, it's very difficult to get into this field, especially when it's so dangerous. It's monetarily very difficult and all that. But even today, they still fear with some of the encounters that I have in the wild. Although they're always supportive, they don't tell it in front of me. Every time when I finish a hard encounter or something, I come back and tell them, and they get scared about that.
Oh my god. Then can you just share some of that scary experience or
I've had like lots of scary experiences, but a few of them have been life-threatening. But then I was lucky that I was able to survive all that. For example, I've told my elephant story to a lot of people. I think I'll tell about that as well. So we were filming some elephants that were about to cross the main roads in one of the wildlife sanctuary, around the wildlife sanctuary. Me and my friend, we were trying to protect the animals by blocking the traffic on either side.
okay.
So when we were trying to do that, the elephants were coming down, and obviously since I was having a camera right when I was doing that to document the same thing, there were people behind me. Although we were about some 50-60 meters away from the elephants standing down point, it was a safe point, but still it was a bit dangerous for the animals when there were a lot of people gathering behind me, and they started speaking out. I told them twice not to shout, but they were going down the second time, and the third time when they opened up their volume, the animal was on the road and it started chasing me, and I had to pick up my 25 kilogram camera and then turn back, and I was about to run. When I turned, nobody was there. They were already out.
Oh my god.
So I ran, and the elephant was chasing really fast. When it was almost about to catch me, I was able to hide behind a truck. And unluckily, the truck driver got scared, and he took the truck and he left. So I was just stranded in the road without anything to block me, and the elephant was still running towards me. I just stood thinking that it was my last moment, but then the elephant suddenly stopped because one of the other elephants from the same herd went into a different path. So it got confused. Luckily, it just made a trumpet and went away. Otherwise, I wouldn't be staying here
You
right
are
now.
like literally, we can imagine the scenario when you are explaining.
It was quite close,
Yeah.
yes. So, I've had a lot of situations like that. Crocodiles almost coming to catch and things like that.
Oh.
But yes, you can't be lucky always. So as of now, I've been lucky.
So, like, which is the most dangerous animal according to you? Like, when you saw the animal and you felt like, no, this is dangerous one.
I've never felt that the animals are dangerous, because always any animal for that matter, it's a wild animal, so you can't predict what the animals are going to do. For that instance, you have to be a bit cautious, thinking about what the animals would do, how to react for that. Because even for that matter, I've filmed from monkeys to elephants to crocodiles, you can name it. Technically speaking, all animals are dangerous, because even a monkey's bite could rip off half your muscle, and an elephant could trample you to death. And so far, I've never feared any of the animals, like telling that, oh my god, this is a dangerous animal. Although I have felt the danger, telling that, okay, this is a wild animal, if I disturb them, they would attack me. But I've never felt that, because I don't usually disturb them, only it's because of a third party or an accidental disturbance that it happens. So there's nothing that I would say it's a very dangerous animal for anyone, because unless you do anything to an animal, they will.
Correct. And I agree that monkeys can be dangerous too, because his video is there where monkeys are slapping squirrels.
Right.
And I felt at that time, oh my god, in this world, any animal can slap. Because that is
Right.
like tendency, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. If you get a chance to spend your special moments, in the sense, one day, 24 hours to spend with some particular animal, which animal will you prefer?
First of all, I would say 24 hours is too little for me to be with an animal.
Oh my god.
So,
Okay, then.
But regardless, I would.
It should be like interesting time.
Right. I'm not partial towards any particular animal, because I love to stay with any animal for that kind, because I love their behavior. I love to observe what these animals are doing and stay longer with the animal as long as time permits. But then, since you've asked that question, just to push it, and being my favorite animal, I would love to be with some kind of a monkey, any kind for that matter, because observing them from morning to evening. And 24 hours with an animal seems a bit too much, because one, they get disturbed. The other thing is they're not active 24/7, because they're active for some part of the day and then they go rest, because that time is also a bit boring. You just have to see them just sleeping all the time. So that happens as well.
So as you told, like 24 hours are less for you.
Yeah.
So if you are working on particular documentary film, like how long it takes?
Depends on the assignment that we get. The longest that I've stayed in one particular place for one particular bird was 60 days. So I was in one location. Every day I used to go around 4:30, 5 in the morning and come back around 7 or 8 in the evening to the base. Yeah.
Many people are bored sitting at our own house for this 45 days, and 60 days are like really long.
That has been the longest for me because that was one of the first shoots that I was going on, and the bird was doing nothing much, just a very little behavior. Sometimes we had to wait for 13, 14 hours for one particular shot, and sometimes we didn't even get that. So waiting all the time for 60 days was quite a difficult task, and that especially in 54 degrees, 53 degrees Celsius was too difficult. Right.
And the shortest thing, like this you told for one bird you were staying for 60 days is longest.
Yeah.
And the shortest period, you
Shortest,
finished your documentary in shortest time, which is that?
Shortest, I would say there was one of the films, an entire film. So there is a different category for us. For example, sometimes it's a 2-minute video, sometimes it's a 5-minute video, sometimes it's a 50-minute film. So it depends on what we're doing. And sometimes I've finished an entire documentary, a 50-minute film within just 25 days. A whole shoot because I was able to plan and strategize and everything. So I was able to complete that's a very short time for a whole documentary. Whereas the 60-day shoot that I was in one particular location, I was just able to put up some 6 or 7 minutes of footage together. So that's the difference that we get, and it always depends on different animals.
Correct.
So that differs.
And like how big your team is? If you're traveling somewhere, how many people you need usually?
Once again, this is a very production dependent thing. Depends on the location as well. So sometimes I've gone by myself itself because for one of the documentaries that I was telling for 50 minutes that I filmed, for 25 days I was doing it by myself. So it was completely myself, and the location required it as such. So it was just me carrying everything and doing the whole thing by myself. But there have been instances where I have been with 3 other people or 4 other people who assist me, or sometimes they track animals, or different things, because usually it's a crew dependent thing. And for some productions I have a director, I have a sound recordist, and I have someone else doing the camera assistance or something. So it always varies with the kind of productions that you do.
Then going alone is not boring? Like 25 days, again it's too much for me.
Going alone to some places is actually quite exciting because for once I stayed in one of the jungles all night because it was a nice shoot, and I was just staying in a very remote place. It was in the depth of the jungle and complete darkness. So all night I was by myself, and there was about 2 or 3 meters away there was a leopard that just crossed, and I could hear it very clearly, and I was looking with a night vision camera, but then I was lucky that it didn't come close, and I didn't disturb it as well.
You are telling you are not scared. I'm scared right now when you are explaining that to me. I'm scared, seriously.
No, but these are the exciting things that keep you going once in a while.
Especially like you are in that profession, of course, that will be exciting for you, not for me. Okay. Ever, like, okay, I forgot to tell you guys, he is married. So, as all married couples, there is like once this question is coming, choose one thing, either me or your profession. Like so many times I asked my husband, decide, you have to come to Manchester Tower or you have to be at Bank of India. So like that, ever your wife asked you decide one thing, either my house, I mean our house, or jungle, either animal or me, ever she asked you?
I mean, I've known her since a long time, and even before I started my profession. So she's been through with this the whole time, and she's been always supportive. She never asks that question. Reason is because she knows the answer, that I would immediately tell that it's an animal that I want to be with. Because I can't really think about like being home with her. It cannot be partial when there is duty calls. Because I have to be really dedicated to what I'm doing. I can't think about family things. Obviously, I miss family, everything while I'm in the field. But she adjusts with that, and whenever we get our times outside, we just have the best out of it. So Corona time has been the worst times for everybody, but we've been lucky that we've been together for the longest ever since we got married. Yeah.
In this Neelam show, we are getting so many benefits, like why Corona, this lockdown was helpful. So this is one more. So, your wife is also from same profession, or?
No, she works with a multinational company in the marketing team. So she's part of that. So her line is completely different from mine. Although we went to the same college for engineering, we studied engineering, but then she chose a different path as well. Our paths are completely different because I work for something very environmentally thing, and she's on a corporate side. So it's completely different. But then once we meet, we just forget about all that and stay together.
Okay, so it looks like your profession is really interesting profession. All profession looks like that.
Right.
Okay, but still, at that moment we feel like we need to change something in my profession. We always feel somewhere something. So what do you, like according to you, are you feeling you need to change something about your profession? You want to maybe...
basically speaking, my field is exciting from the outside. I mean, yes, it looks glamorous. We take cameras, we take big equipment, we go to wild places. It looks like we are traveling a lot and things. But then there's a lot many things that are happening behind. It's very difficult to bring in productions from abroad to make things happen, and the budgets are constrained. So filming there within this time, the forest permits, the dangers involved, so many things are there. So it's not as glamorous as it looks, but it is quite dangerous and it's very difficult to do it in this field. What I would love to change in this field is, as being an Indian, and the field in India is quite limited because there are not many broadcasters who are from this country who do this. It's always about international broadcasters, and the production companies in India are very little. A lot many constraints that way, which gives a very little possibility for any enthusiast to become a wildlife filmmaker in a professional sense. It's always about we're doing this work for an abroad broadcaster. So that way it would be great if there is an incentive or if there is an initiative that would bring this profession a real profession in this country, because until now we aren't even considered as a particular sect of professionals. It's just about, oh, it's a wildlife photography thing. They don't even understand wildlife filmmaking is completely different from wildlife photography. Wildlife photography, yes, it is a profession by itself, but wildlife filmmaking is a completely different profession. So that accreditation of it being a separate profession by itself, and the interest what people show towards types of cinema, which is usually not that great, because very few art films come out. A lot of commercial films which entertain people is what pulls the audience. So when people come for that, they want entertainment. They just look at wildlife as well as entertainment. Or very few people look at it as education. Because yes, it is entertainment, yes, it is education, but they have to join both together because it's more about science communication. And all we are trying to do is empathize this audience so that they can understand how important this nature is, how important wildlife is, and we are just a part of it. We don't own it.
Yeah, exactly, and we have to save it. Like
Right.
It's
Exactly.
our duty to save it. Okay, so there are so many people, they are feeling in childhood or somewhere like, okay, I want to be wildlife photographer or something, but we people are not aware of it. Like, as you told, we are not sure we have to take it as entertainment or like education. So can you just throw some light if we want to get into that field, like what's the procedure or how to get in?
Okay, to begin with, I mean, yes, you need a lot of like practice, a lot of patience, and you have to have that interest to go into this field. And diverging from the very beginning, you have to decide between wildlife photography and wildlife videography, because both are different fields. Obviously, you can change your fields later on, but you have to understand what it is. And lots of practice is required regardless of what kind of equipment you use. Because everyone asks me the very first question is, what is the equipment I need to buy? How big is this? How expensive is this? Basically speaking, you don't need very huge equipment for that. I mean, obviously, at a broadcast scale, you are required to get those or to rent out those. But it's not mandatory that you own such things in the very starting stage itself. Nobody can do that. Because even some of my colleagues, even today, they don't use huge cameras or production level cameras. Some of my friends don't even have cameras until today. The reason is because they were so talented, they used very small equipment to showcase their work outside to the outside world. They got work after that, and every time, even until today, they rent out the gear. So that's how it works. So equipment is a trivial thing. Yes, it is required, but for starting purpose, you just need to take out with anything you have, including mobile phones or basic DSLR or basic camera. Is that all that you need? Because to create content, a tool is required, and for that matter, any tool can be your handy thing for making you into the profession.
It's like very good guidance. Now you are tend to roam like at so many places. Till now, which is the place you felt like the most beautiful?
A very difficult question, because every time I stop at one point after climbing so much or walking so much of distance, it always appears very beautiful. But to tick off that list, I think I have quite a few places. I've been to the Western Ghats extensively, stayed there for long places. Long time, lots of places. That's one of the very beautiful places. And the other most favorite place for me is Ladakh, because I've stayed a lot in Ladakh as well, and that's one of the places where I've gone to very frequently. In just about 1.5-2 years, I've gone there about 7 or 8 times. So that's one of the most beautiful places, all in different weather and different scenarios. It's like a beautiful, amazing landscape, because as much as you see, it doesn't end. It just keeps going on and you feel like exploring more. And it's also one of the toughest places to explore.
Baba, my husband, are you listening? Ladakh. We have to go, not for photography of wildlife. My photography, please.
Yes, it is definitely a beautiful place. You need to.
Thank you, you took that name. Via this, I am like pinning, but he has very good option right now to tell. This is like Corona time. Corona time. Okay. Okay, and like you shared your life-threatening experience, but please share some beautiful experience that you cannot forget ever.
Oh yeah, so life-threatening experiences were just about 3 or 4 for me, so that's about it. But the beautiful moments, I've never witnessed like more. I don't even have a track of how many I've had. Like a lot of them have been beautiful. Some of the instances, for example, a small little crocodile coming off the nesting site, which has never been filmed in the wild. I was the first person to document it. So it came out from the hatching spot, it came out from the egg, it crawled, and for the very first time it went into the water. I filmed the entire thing. So that was like the life coming out of something was a very nice moment for me. And for some times I've filmed some baby animals up close and personal. Sometimes I haven't even filmed, but I've stayed so close. For example, it was a dangerous scenario, but I knew how to behave in front of animals. I gave them their space, I respected them. And after a lot of time, I would suggest that people don't try this, because it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of experience to do this. So one of the times, an Indian gaur, it's also called as a bison locally in some places here. It's a huge animal. It stands up to even 10 feet, 10.5 feet tall. It's the largest cow species, it's a bovine species that's found in the wild. So that kept walking towards me. Usually when they come really close, they get angry or they get scared. They tend to attack in some instances as well. For one of the incidents, I had the animal come up to about 4.5-5 feet away from me, and the animal was completely cool. At one point, it was so close that I couldn't even film. I stopped filming and I was just observing how beautiful the animal was. So you appreciate nature a lot of times when you're filming. So that's, I think, the best moment that you would have. It's not about one single moment. It's about appreciating nature while you're there.
Now I started feeling I have to change my profession. Okay. One more question regarding your profession. Like, what is the best thing? What is the main thing you can enjoy in this profession? Like, again, you told you have lots of good moments, but other than that, like you can have a lot of time spending in jungle, in nature, or you can be always innovative. Like, what is the main positive thing about your profession?
So the best part about wildlife filmmaking is to bring out these stories from nature to an audience, which is not just entertaining, but it also has to make them understand how important these animals are. So it's like a bridging mechanism. So we are basically bridging from what is there, because sometimes we are fortunate enough to be in some places which cannot be accessed by billions of people. So bringing out such stories from micro places or exquisite landscapes to these people is a huge responsibility for people like us, and we have to respect that, because we are fortunate that we have been given this responsibility to bring it, not just by the people, not by anyone for that matter. It's ourselves who give us this responsibility to bring out these stories and the facts what people need to understand, because there have been a lot of stories which have been filmed in India by Indian production films or Indian camera people or Indian filmmakers, which have changed the laws for nature, which is very important for a critical time like this where nature is depleting and where there is time when animals are going down, climate change is happening, all this is happening, and so we need to be more positive in thinking that way and bring out as much as positive stories as well as the stories that are real so that people understand what is the value of it.
What was your first project that you got, and of course first love, first job, first project, they are like memorable.
So my first project was the one in Chambal. So I was in the Chambal landscape for 60 days. That's the one that I was
Chambal
telling you.
is very famous for Daku.
Yeah.
Mangal Singh for Daku, I don't know.
Yeah, we have been threatened by them as well while in the field, but not exactly
I
Daku.
mean, that is real. I thought it's in only stories.
No, actually, dacoits have been completely wiped out from there on paper, but we don't know if they are still there or not. I mean, I can't really comment on that because I haven't seen them. But there is mafia of different kind where underworld things happen there, which I can't really be vocal about it on social media.
Exactly.
So those kind of things happen. So we have observed such people. So my first project itself was there, and this was pre-planned when I was still doing my course in New Zealand. I was having job opportunities in New Zealand itself, but then I refused. I thought I should be filming in my country because this is where I wanted to be. This is where I always lived in and wanted to share the stories from. So I immediately packed off, thanks to my friend Parveen. She was the one who was studying these particular birds. She wanted to start off a project in Chambal for a few months about a particular species called Indian skipper. So she came down and she said, why don't you come and join me? I said, that'd be great if I could join you and document the entire thing. I was fortunate enough, I went there and I started filming them for a long time. Lots of memories from there. So yes, it's one of my favorites as well.
So yeah, like we are talking too much about his profession, and it's being interesting after like each question. Which is the like smallest animal or whatever? Not animal, we cannot call it animal, but smallest thing you have filmed on. Like
Smallest.
tiniest.
I mean, I have filmed a lot of ants and bees, etc. But the tiniest is probably some kind of mite or some ant or something that was within a flower or something. That's, I think, the smallest thing I remember that I have filmed. Not extensively, just as part of a story's cutaway or something. Not as an exclusive story. But a lot of videos about bees as well I have done. Nothing more beyond that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell something else to our audience, like anything?
I mean, I'm not sure
special?
about what level of interest they are in. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or any kind of doubts you have, any advice that you'd like to have. Because without knowing your skill set or what's your knowledge level, I can't really comment on what you should be knowing. But then if you're interested, you should definitely pick up wildlife filmmaking, wildlife photography for that instance. Go outdoors, explore more, appreciate more, and try to enjoy every instance outside as much as possible, because that's the key thing of respecting nature. And that's the key thing for today, and I would say that's the best advice or best comment I would say I would have for people.
Okay, so how did you spend your quarantine time? Like you are always in love with your camera, so how did your time with camera in this quarantine time?
So, like you said, quarantine was a real quarantine for me, and I haven't been indoors for so long ever in my life, because all the time I would just be outdoors or stay outdoors, keep traveling somewhere. So this was quite a new experience, although I did adapt to it very quickly, because obviously all of us have to respect such things what the government has imposed, because it's for the better good for the entire population. Yeah? The duties completely changed, because doing house chores, helping people for some time. And after about a month or month and a half, I think, it started getting a bit monotonous, and I was getting this withdrawal symptoms of me not being outdoors. So that started hitting, and I started picking up my camera, sitting out in the balcony, and started filming some birds or observing birds. So I tried doing that, and now I'm still waiting when is the next moment I can step outside so that I can start filming in the outdoors. But it has been quite an experience, although I'm thankful that we're all safe as of now. The city is getting better. I hope this continues and gets better for everyone.
Yes, and I think Indian government handled it so well. So one last question is about our government only. Are they supportive for this field? Like, how is your experience with Indian government?
The truth is, not many places are aware about such a thing. So it's not reasonable to say how much they would support. Reasons because they're not aware about it. And even in some places, they have been very supportive. They have taken extraordinary measures because some of the officers, some of the bureaucrats understand the importance of communicating science to people, educating people, and bringing out such stories to people, and what level of conservation methods they're doing. To bring out these, some of the governments are playing very important role. They are extremely proactive, making like small films after films. It's not just about us who do it. Even their staff are getting trained from us so that they themselves can make their own stories and bring it out. That's key, because some governments, since they're doing it this way, their places are going to be well protected. They're going to have good awareness among the people, because in the end of the day, it's the local people who are going to have their first hands-on with the natural places, because it's their property. I mean, it's everybody's property, and it's their responsibility to take care of it. And without knowledge, without this awareness, they wouldn't be able to do it. So some governments are really helpful, and it would be great if all the governments do such things. They are proactive in bringing out such measures. There is still a small difficulty for these governments to trust some of the peoples, because for obvious reasons. Some of the filmmakers are not ethical. Some of them are trying to make just money. They're not bringing out the proper stories. Some of them portray things wrong. So there are tricks and ways which they have to swerve through. But let's see. We hope that it will get better in the coming days and coming years.
It was like such a nice interview, and we really enjoyed. Actually, we were meeting so many times in lift, so I didn't know like he is wildlife photographer and very famous personality. But as we all ladies of our community, we were talking, and I came to know through someone like you are writing a book. So can you just throw some light on that matter, like what book you are writing? And
at the moment, I'm not actually writing a book. I'm just collecting a lot of my field notes. Planning to compile it after a lot of years, obviously. I'm not into. I'm not a great professional as yet, because there are a lot many people all around the world who are still great professionals. Trying to collect a lot of things, and I will be writing perhaps later in my life. But then that's more about just my experiences, how I have in the field and what experiences are. Probably it might inspire someone. Probably they might get some idea about what to do in the field. It's just about a collective thought, what I have done.
and if we want to reach you, like your videos, so where we can find out like exact things?
That's a common thing. A lot of people ask me, can I see your videos and things. One thing is, I don't usually post most of my videos online, like social media or YouTube or any platform for that matter. Reason is because I'm hired by big broadcasters, so that our don't post a lot of my videos, and it usually gets broadcast by itself from the broadcasters on different international channels. Once in a while it comes to India. Half the time even I don't know when it's coming, because it's suddenly there, it's just my movie. So that happens as well. So it can't really be that way. But once in a while I do post some of my videos and some of my clips and photographs and behind the scenes content on my Instagram page. That's just for my own sake, just to keep a track of my memory. And some people who do follow me as well, so just to share it
So
with
on
them.
Instagram we can just have look few of his video. Okay, so here we can end up our beautiful
Absolutely.
session. So many more questions are there to ask, but time is limited.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and weather is like today we planned and suddenly it started raining, so it
yeah.
became so pleasant.
So that was great.
Yeah.
But lovely, yeah. Thank you very much for this time and this interview. It was amazing interacting with you. I hope there are some people who have seen this and get some ideas or some awareness about what is going on in this field. I'm
Thank
thankful
you
for that.
so much spending your like very important time with
Absolutely.
us, and thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, and take care from this COVID for now,
Yes.
and let's be safe indoors as of now. Cheers,
Do
then.
photography from your balconies as
Yeah.
what he is doing. Thank you guys.
Thank you very
See
much.
you.
Cheers.